Welcome to Culture Before Content. Culture Before Content, from Music for All and presented by Yamaha. And now, here's your host, David Duarte.
Hey, welcome to the show. Hope everybody had a great and wonderful Easter. Anyway, welcome to Culture Before Content, where the guests bring their unique ways and beliefs to the table, and it's so wonderful to celebrate their differences and share what makes them who they are. Anyway, this podcast is brought to all of us by Music for All, where our mission is to create, provide, and expand positively life-changing experiences through music. This podcast is broadcast live on Sundays, just like right now, if you're watching, and during the school year. You have several options because you can either watch the live stream or you can view the recording later, or you can even listen on some amazing audio versions during the week. With video, you got two options. First, you can go to the Music for All page on Facebook, click on the events tab, typically posted on Saturdays, and mark yourself as interested or going. On second, you can also watch it on YouTube, which is also super simple. Just visit the Music for All channel, click on the live tab, and you'll see the current show's podcast. But whether you're live or not, the chat is open for questions, and it's full of real-time conversation. I hope a bunch of our guests are here today. And if you're watching now, feel free to jump in and say hello. And during the week, it's usually right about Monday. Sometimes it might be Tuesday morning. I don't know. I just wait for it to pop up. If you prefer audio, you can find the Culture Before Content on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other major platforms. But regardless, you can find every single episode, audio or video, at musicforall.org/podcast. Hey, what a great show we're going to have today. So from the great state of Georgia, we have Monica Fogg, who is a K-12 music coordinator in the DeKalb County School District. She's also an educator and a consultant with more than 20 years of experience building, stabilizing, and elevating music programs across diverse communities. She supports instruction across grade levels through coaching, curriculum development, and professional learning. She's a former high school band director. She's led many programs in startup, turnaround, and high-performing settings. I love to talk about all the differences in those. She is the founder and CEO of SoundBoard Strategies, where she provides job-embedded coaching and strategic support to help music educators navigate real-world challenges while sustaining high-quality instruction. So please welcome to the show, Ms. Monica Fogg. Yay!
Hello, thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Well, as I always say, welcome to the show. But how about you take a moment and introduce yourself your way? Tell us a little about who Monica Fogg really is.
Well, hello, everyone. Monica Fogg is a former band director, knew she was going to be a teacher since first grade. I've taught everyone. I love music. Music is a favorite pastime, and it's been a way for me I want to change the world through music. And I thought, what better way to start in a classroom? And so I miss being in the classroom. Right now, I'm a K-12 music coordinator in the DeKalb County School District, but I get to support all of the wonderful students and teachers in my district. And that brings me joy when I get to see them in college and to see them come back and remember me when I go visit. So it's been a long road for me getting here, but I really enjoy music. And I just wish everyone had a program that could thrive rather than survive in today's climates.
Well, that's amazing. So we're going to get a lot today because, I think what's really unique about this show is everyone, I'm always trying to capture everyone's culture. Like, what is it that you do? What is it that has, inspired you? And like you said, you always knew you wanted to do music and now you've made that lovely jump to administration. And I'm sure because, I've made the jump and I've made the jump back, and that's what retirement's for. But, I think what I'm most interested to hear from you is how has it been seeing the teaching side from the other side and the other perspective and kind of the cultural things that it takes? Because I think now that you're up there, and I could be wrong, now that you're up at the district office level, you see things differently where you probably used to think this is how things were for all of us, but maybe it's a little different. What's your perspective on that coordinator position so far?
I can say my perspective changed a lot because when I was in the classroom, we would have, I was the unofficial band lead teacher. We didn't have official lead teachers in our district, but my previous supervisor, he selected me to lead the band department. I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. And when I get, if I ever get this opportunity, I'm going to do this. We had a whole list of demands as band directors that we wanted to see our county do. And then once I transitioned over, I was like, oh, I can't do any of that. Like, I don't have control over that. And that was the biggest thing for me, was learning what I had control over. In my band room, I controlled the programming, our trips, the fundraisers that we were going to do. Like, it was my own little world in those four walls. But in the county office, there is a lot of red tape that I didn't realize that people had to go through. And more I was like, oh, I understood why he did it things this way. I understand it more. And so I have a lot of respect for my previous coordinator was Don Roberts. He was in this position for about 25 years in the district for a long time. And his band was internationally known. Like, if you've ever seen the movie Drumline Live, he was the band for that movie, for Drumline. And so I had some shoes to fill. I was in that movie as well, but as a college graduate student, as a college student at the end. So I had no idea all of the things that it took in order for that program to get there. And so to be able to keep that kind of notoriety and walk in, like, people always say, you got some big shoes to fill. I said, well, I wear heels. So I knew that my direction was going to be a little bit different and not the same that he did. And so I'm so grateful for him taking me underneath his wing and showing me some of the ropes, but I didn't realize all that it took to get things going. And so that was the biggest thing, was seeing teachers and knowing that you have the ability to share what it is that they could do to make it better in their classrooms, and not having any control about whether they implement it at all. I'm just a highly suggested, not even required. I want you to do this, and I really recommend that you do it, but it's up to the teacher to do it or not. And sometimes they do. The ones that listen, I'm so proud of how they grow. The ones that don't, I'm like, I kind of mentioned that you should have XYZ'd it. But one of the great things I have with my colleagues is that we were colleagues first. Like, I was in DeKalb for 20 years before I transitioned to that role. And so it was a little difficult for me, because I'm like, how are they going to see me? It wasn't them seeing me in this role. It was me seeing me in this role and the level of impact that I would have. And so it was a little bit of a transition for some, but for most, they just welcomed me in with open arms and believed in the things that I've asked them to do, even if it was out of the box.
Yeah. Do you find that sometimes the teachers are surprised, like when you're mentioning things that that they have to do? Do you find any pushback from teachers? And how do you overcome some of that pushback?
The only pushback is when I ask them to do paperwork, like, or inventory. Like, I've been doing this big inventory project. I'm a systems thinker. And so the things that I see it from an overall perspective. And I've always did that, even when I was in a classroom. So I'm like, in order for us to get to C, we got to do A and B. Doing A is tedious, and everyone doesn't like to do A. Okay. And so I got to encourage them. And so sometimes when I get in front of them, the mama in me comes out, and they're like, oh, Mama Fogg is about to get up. I see it. She's looking at us. And it's just me being very passionate about what it is. And I know I need their support in order for it to make it happen, because I can't do it on my own. And so, like what you're seeing right now was one of our teachers, Jonathan Carmack from DeKalb School of the Arts. We had orchestra and our large group performance evaluation in the gym of his school. Who knew that gyms had good acoustics? But the School of the Arts did. And so he volunteered to do it because no one else wanted to host performance evaluation. And so we've been in that gym for 2 years, and it actually seems pretty amazing. So, and he's one of those ones that is an initiator, and he'll take it and share all of the wonderful things he's doing in the school with all of the leaders of our district. Like, we had the interim superintendent before he was superintendent come to our LGP is what we call it in Georgia, and go into the sight reading room with one of our middle school orchestras. He didn't even know what the sight reading process was. So could you imagine the impact it has on him now that he's interim superintendent? So I'm about capitalizing on all those opportunities. So I really enjoy, supporting our teachers in all of our endeavors. I didn't share that I'm also our district chair for our local MEA. And I'm like, yeah, guys, it's time for somebody else to step into that. But I get the opportunity to see it as the leader for the district and the leader for our district for our GMEA.
Well, we're going to come back to that, because on the screen, for those of you that are listening, your website, because you're the founder and CEO of SoundBoard Strategies. I'm going to keep saying that. I just love the way that jacket looks. That blue looks amazing on you. And look, you're wearing blue. But I wanted to get people to turned on about it first. And so the website of what we're looking at, for those of you listening, is soundboardstrategies.kit. soundboard.com. And then I'm gonna have you talk a little bit about soundboard strategies. Then we go back to the classroom things, but talk a little bit about your soundboard strategies.
Well, SoundBoard Strategies is my baby right now. I'd never thought of myself as an entrepreneur, but that's the way that I can get the information that's in my head out to the masses. When I taught in DeKalb, I taught in a variety of programs. It's a metropolitan. If you've never heard of DeKalb County, Georgia, it is about 20 minutes east of the city of Atlanta. We even have some parts of Atlanta in our school zone, but it's really big. You could drive an hour and you're still in DeKalb County. DeKalb is the third largest school district in Georgia. And so I've taught in environments where you have 3 different classes and your band has to come from that. And in some communities, it's like, what? All the kids are not in the same class every period, every day? No, they're not. And I've been able to teach in that type of environment and get kids in all state, get kids in district honor band consistently, get kids to be in a governor's honors program, get kids to get college scholarships. Like, oh my goodness, I love that. Is one of my biggest rewards when I see one of my students going to college. And so I worked in Title I environments, in at-risk environments, and then at those environments that had money. I was like, I don't got to fundraise. They was like, no, Miss Fogg, just tell us how much money you need for us to pay and we'll do it. I looked at them like, oh, okay. I wasn't used to that. And then I was in an environment where students didn't need scholarships to go to college. That was my motivator. Oh, I don't have to convince y'all to practice. Okay. And so SoundBoard Strategies came up to be able to provide practical structure for diagnosing instability, strengthening the institutional conditions, and translating music program needs to actionable leadership decisions. Now, being on the administrative side, I'm able to kind of speak principalese, which is what I call it, but be able to give the teachers those terms to help their principals make decisions to fund their programs. And so a lot of it is some of the things I use with my teachers. And like I had an opportunity, I was supposed to be going in and conducting a group to get ready for their performance evaluation. I ended up in the principal's office. I'm like, oh, I'm consulting on today. But it was wonderful. And that conversation, the principal went straight to the band director. I'm looking like, oh, so this is what it's going to be. I might have to do this consulting a little bit more frequently, but I want to make sure that everyone understands about the 3-part system that I built called a stability board. You have to have structural awareness, program stabilization, and strategic translation. And that's where with the structural awareness, you have to see what are your scheduling issues that you have, the feeder pathways. Do you have a feeder? I've been in schools with a direct feeder and ones without a direct feeder. The policy and graduation requirements, staffing and FTE conditions, because sometimes if you don't have enough kids in your class, they want to cut your position. How do you handle that and that? And so then that leads to program stabilization, to building up the program to where you only had 25 kids in the class to over 100 in the class, and that you can leave and that program is still strong today. That's my last school. And then strategic translation, where you can take that leadership language and share with your admin in order for them to be able to make moves for you. And right there, you're seeing the picture of, I believe that's Towers High School, which is one of our schools in DeKalb, who had in their mind, it's not the best situation, and it's not. But they had a beginning band, and instead of him putting all of them in one band, he took my advice last year and made 2 bands. And so he has a beginning group that went to LGPE this year and got a superior their first time, and they got a second band director. And the top director, he was able to take a second group to performance evaluation. So we're just so proud of our students and our teachers for believing in the vision that I give them, even if it's outside of the box, and then going forward. And there you have the Columbia sound machine. And forgive me if I said it wrong. I don't want Zach Neely to come after me, but that's them there with one of the former mayors of Atlanta. They're one of our organizations in the school district. Anytime you ask the marching band to come, they'll show up. And I'm not going to give his language that he coined, but they're one of our programs that are very visible within our district, especially with the marching band program. So I'm all about support. If I can show up, I will.
Yeah, I can tell you must be a dynamo out there trying to get it. Because I think when you're at the district level, or even the professional level, and you said it, you talk to a principal. I'm just curious what your experience is like what was it like when you first talked to a principal, and then what is it like now? I mean, do you have different expectations? Because I have this belief system that when you're not used to talking to administration, you have this perception of what it is. And I think we all need to change the perception of who we're talking to, because I think you said it in your conversations. The minute you start speaking, actions happen. And I was wondering what was it like, when you first started talking with administrators to what is it like now?
Well, my position is a little bit different. I had to make personal conversations with or personal relationships with the administrators. Some of the ones that I had the best interaction with are those who were colleagues. They were like teachers in my building, and now they're in administration. So it was easier to have those conversations. Now it's not as what I would like for it to be, but I'm getting calls to review candidates for potential to fill potential positions for music teachers. Whereas I'm like, they had one particular school, they had a phenomenal middle school director. She retired, well, not retired, but went down to elementary school, and they hired a first-year teacher for 200 kids in a program. And that teacher was just not, I didn't need a curriculum design. I need a lesson plan. I don't even play piano. And I'm like, poor baby. In the back of my mind is like, why was he hired? But in the front of my mind is he is hired. And now I have to be able to provide him the level of support that he needs so he could be successful. And he took a group to performance evaluation this year. He didn't his first year, but he was able to get there this year. So for me, that is growth. And here again, we have Mr. Carmack. They were able to play at the ASTA conference for the American String Teacher Association. They had their national conference in Georgia this year. So they were able to do a performance there. So I'm really proud of our orchestra department as well in DeKalb, which is growing. That's my baby. I'm trying to get orchestra into the south side of DeKalb, where a lot of the schools that's my I don't even know how to put that, but I would love to have orchestra, chorus, and band from K through 12 at every school, not just those schools that can afford to have it because of their scheduling. And so that's been my baby. We have a lot of gaps in our district. I don't want to talk about that right now.
Well, I do have some advice on that. Because that was one of my things when I went to the district office. I had like one orchestra in the entire district. And I came up with this idea that I stole from the band department, and we bought general music sets of string instruments. So we bought like a classroom set of violins, and we sent them out to general music teachers with that they would teach string units in third grade. And then we just started asking teachers to volunteer to teach orchestra in fourth grade. And they did. And it took about 5 years, but by the time I had left being an administrator, every single high school had an orchestra program, and every single school had access to orchestra finally. But it just took that little idea of like, hey, let's purchase string sets that we could, every 9 weeks we could just send them around the district. So basically, it was only like $5,000 for all those instruments. Because what did I learn? I learned what quarter size means. I learned all those cool things.
Yes.
But that was one of those things that I always say when you move up to the culture of being an administrator is completely different than the culture of being a teacher. And what I've learned, and what I'm just always curious about, is just talking to people seems to be the biggest impact, whether it's an idea, whether it's a need, whether it's a want. But I just think those ideas that about talking to administrators are those that have, the ability to make change. You just have to do it and be kind of a go-to person with that.
Most definitely. We've done content learning walks this year where we go and observe the teacher and see if they're implementing the standards. And so I don't like to intrude, but I'm like, is the principal available? Because what I learned getting my leadership certificate is that they are not thinking about music. Like, no matter how much it's important, how big it is, we have a concert, we don't have any buses, we don't have instruments, and the piano's not tuned. They're worried about the building. They're worried about the organizational structure of that building, where the buses are on time, making sure all the classes are covered, because 12 teachers are out on today, and we got to make sure the subs are in. And then the sub who took the job didn't cancel the job and didn't show up for the job. And then we have tests that are going on, and the computers won't log into the internet. Those are the problems that they're thinking about. And we have to realize that in our big world of music, that is not as important to that school. And so I encourage the teachers to build the culture of the program so that it can become a part of the school, and that the administrators can think about it. Find the best time to go to them. First thing in the morning and directly after school is not it, because they're dealing with subs and buses, or they're dealing with making sure the kids get home safely. So you have to find the right time for your administrator. And one of my my mentors, Alfred Watkins, he will always say, don't lead with what your issue is. Figure out what they like. Scan the office and see if they like football. If they were a former coach, talk about the game that happened, even if you don't even know about it, but you got to find your way in. Because if you always go to them with a problem, every time they see you, they're going to start dodging you. I used to be able to find one of my admin in the cafeteria because I knew he did lunch duty. So I'm like, hey, Doc, can you sign this for me? Everything is already complete. I emailed it to you, and he would sign it immediately. But then I had another admin who never read email. So I'm like, I don't know when to get this person, but I realized that they stayed later because they had to wait for their children to get picked up or finish their after school activities. So they had time. So you have to figure out how to speak to your administrator if emailing them works. Some of them do better with text messages. Some of them check the email because they get emails from teachers, from the district office, from their regional or area superintendent, that everything gets lost. And so you may have to re-email that same email just to make sure they looked at it. And it's not that they don't care. It's just a lot of things that they have control over. And that is one of the biggest things that highlighted to me, that you have to figure out how to make your thing important, not a priority, because you got to move those test scores. You have to move the beyond the core points, the consolidated school improvement plan. Figure out what that is. It makes me remember back at our PD this year, I went to each group. I break them up by band, orchestra, chorus, general music. And I was sharing the CSIP and the school strategic plan. That's the district strategic plan. And one of the directors said, do the principals know about this? I'm like, do they know about it? That's all they have to look at. If it doesn't follow the strategic plan for the district, then that's not what they should implement in their school. And so it was just having that language where it is mentioned in the faculty meeting, but us as music teachers, like, oh, they don't have nothing to do with me. Yes, it does. Figure out how you fit in every action item that's on the school improvement plan. That's how you get funding. And so those are the ways that I share with my teachers on how to communicate with their administrators.
Oh my goodness. I'm laughing because I think you said my magic words. Like, I haven't read this email. I teach at a job now that I am never at a desk. I think people forget. I think a lot of people forget that we band directors, we're kind of engaged in our classroom from the bell to the bell. And there's some teachers that I don't ever think about. They can just send an email during maybe a little break in their instruction. What am I going to do? Run over after warm-ups? I have no idea. And so I always tell people, please just text me. And it's because it's not because I won't read my email, but if you text me, hey, there's an important email, that is a super helpful thing. And I think that's that whole culture of communication. And I think, saying it from reverse, that's something I believe in as well. Go find out. See, there it is. Always better to text David. That's correct. He's the other band director at my school, and also orchestra, and also quite amazing. But I was thinking, you're right. Find out whether your administrator drinks coffee. Just drop one off, and don't have an Sometimes it's nice to do things without the expectation or need, but just to do it, just to remind it, we are all people, and we're all trying to do the best we can. I can't imagine having to go to a district meeting and going to an improvement plan meeting, or just trying to go through all the things that people do. And I think that's what you're saying, is be a solutions-based person for when you're wanting to do something. And so I was just thinking, you talked about the new teacher, at the district. What do you think, in your mind, if you had a new teacher, what do you think the first supports are that a new teacher needs?
The first support a new teacher needs is a coach. And we have a wonderful program in our district. I thought I created it. No, I did have the idea because I went to another school district and I to work, and it was only 6 months, but it was like I could do everything. I could teach, but I didn't know anything else besides teaching because their standards were even different. This was even in the same state. I'm like, look now, oh, that's just this. Like, what in the world? So I felt like a fish out of water. And so I said, I don't want any new teacher to ever feel like that in our district. So we have a wonderful new teacher program where we meet monthly and we share with the teachers how to do things, how to find the curriculum, how to submit a field trip request if you don't have a handbook already. But beyond that, they need someone at the local school that can show them how to copy, how to send an email, how to put in a request if your internet is out in your room, because it's so much as a new teacher that you have to learn how to do. You got to learn how to your kids. And if you're a high school director, you're getting ready for a football game, or your next performance. So all of the menial tasks, they need a coach. And I tell my teachers that a new teacher, you don't know what you don't know until you realize you don't know it. And so having a coach, they'll be able to say, hey, this is how you get buses for your football game. I was in a district and we had in my district now, we have shared stadiums. So we didn't have to share stadium protocols with the neighboring team. But in the district that I moved to, I had to do that every week. I was like, what is this? And then I had the director emailing me like, you didn't tell me about, I was like, oh, I didn't know that this was a thing. And in that district, they had the new teacher meeting at the end of the school year in May. I wasn't hired until August. So I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't ever want anyone to feel that way. But what I also have found out is that new teachers don't ask for help. They are drowning. And I was a new teacher facilitator. I was there with them. We would have 20 new teachers and 5 would show up. Why? Because they have rehearsals after school. If it's a rehearsal or come to a meeting, what you think they're going to choose? A rehearsal every single time. And so I've been trying to figure out ways to communicate with them. So we have one-to-one mentors, and I share with them, if they don't reach out, just, hey, send them an email. This is coming up, or call them. Like we said, call them. Because my elementary school directors do not touch their computers. They don't even know how to use a learning management system we have. They're like, Monica, I don't do that. I'm like, I know. So we made a group meet so I can text them all at once to check your email and respond to this so that we can get information that's needed. So it's important for a new teacher just to reach out and ask for help and to be prepared. Like I always will tell them to separate school from work. You can be overwhelmed and take everything home, but have some time. I'm not going to work after this period. I'm going to leave work here. Because I would put stuff in my car over the weekend and would never look at it. It was a waste of time. So just leave it in your office so that you can have some separation and find that one thing that you wouldn't mind going to work every day to do. And for one of my teachers, it was music technology. So he had his 5th grade students now. They would record. They had recorded a school song and they ended up playing it every day. But that was just something he liked to do because he loved music technology. And so the others, new teachers, they like to do musicals. I never know elementary schools did musicals till I got into this role. And that's kind of big in my district. Seeing Aladdin Jr. and Lion King Jr. is so cool. And so those are the things. Find out what it is that you love to do, that you wouldn't mind not getting paid for. That is what you would be able to implement in your program. And then the other rigmarole that you deal with on an everyday basis won't feel so bad.
I feel like a bunch of us out there should get together and write like a general manual of all the things you should think about as a teacher and section it off. Because I remember when I went to Deer Valley Unified School District, I got recruited to go. Like I literally was hired. It was one of the stories a few weeks ago. I was hired with like maybe 3 days notice. And so I went up there and I just went, hey, I need the buses. I need permission slips. I need all the things. And the secretary looked at me and said, how do you know how to do this? And it caught me off guard because it goes back to before I was an administrator. I thought everybody knew how to, but it's those expectations that you learn on the job. Because who knows about how to use, as you said, the copy machine, or how to send it from your computer to print, or when's the best time to do these things. But, I was thinking, about those first year teacher blues. Somebody out there told me this, and I always like sharing it. I think your first 5 years, the only thing you should worry about is teaching, and let not somebody else handle it, but worry about that and take care of it as you go. And as you get better and more experience, allow yourself to do all of those things and seek out that mentor who is going to remind you of all of those things that you need to do. Because when you were new, and you said it, like if you're teaching from the start of the day till the end of the day, and then you have after school rehearsals, or heaven forbid, football games, basketball games, concerts, all those things that we do, you just, I think everybody just wants to go out and do a good job, and having those kinds of supports in place are super. But I think we need like a general manual for everyone. It's like, okay, I have a concert. What's coming up? Oh, did I fill out a facilities request? Did I request the auditorium? Did I request the auditorium for during the school day? Did I have chairs and stands? Do I have a setup chart? And that's what I think. I swear we should have like a conference session on just like piecemealing a year for new teachers, so that they can hear what experienced teachers have to say and kind of hear it in like a group chat.
I think that would be great. And it'll be a very long book because it varies from school to school, district to district, of what things you would have to have in order for those things to happen. Like for some schools, it was just put it in on this performance calendar and the auditorium is yours. But on some schools, you have to go to the secretary and submit a facilities use request. But you don't know that you don't need those things until you get there. You can't go into the auditorium because somebody else already has it, you know? So it's just so important to make sure they know that. And I saw on one of the comments, they were saying about new teachers not wanting to ask questions.
I just asked Patrick to bring that up because I said, and it's Jarrell. Jarrell's like, I think some people perceive asking questions as a sign of weakness and exposing a lack of knowledge, you know, and I think that we could talk about that for just a second, because I don't know whether it's a personality trait or an acceptance trait or an experience trait, but, you know, at my age, I've just learned I don't know anything. I completely don't know anything. And if I don't, I'm going to be the first one to tell you. And I'm going to get someone like, hey, Craig, you're out there. He knows this. He knows he's going to help me do it because I'm going to be like, yeah, I have no idea, or I don't have time. Because you said this before. Teachers that are new need to learn how to take that they are just teachers and have a personal life too, and learn to separate the two. Biggest and best advice you could give to anyone out there is separate your worlds.
Most definitely, because you can become overwhelmed. You can wake up thinking about, oh my gosh, did I program the right music? My trumpets are still not hitting the G. What am I going to do? And like that will consume you. And I did not learn this initially. And don't act like I did it from the beginning. I made those mistakes too. That's how we can share with you now to not make that mistake and have some type of separation with things. But asking questions is a sign of strength because you have realized that you don't know those things. It's not a sign of weakness or that you have a lack of knowledge, because when you go from school to school in the same district, it's still a different procedure for that administrator. And so it's important for you just to be able to ask those questions to make sure that you do it right the first time. Who wants to do it one way and you have all of this paper that to submit, and then you get there and it's on the wrong form because they changed it last week and you didn't check your email to see it's supposed to be on a new form. I had that happen this year. Our future request form changed 3 times in 2 weeks. And I did tell the teachers, go back and look, this is the most updated one. But if you don't ask those questions, you're going to miss out on so much information. And it's okay to ask questions. Now, I used to tell my kids that there is a such thing as a bad question, because if you're an educator, there are certain things you already have the answer to. And I don't like to say per my last email, but I just add the email into to say, go look here, because there are some things that we have access to. But even if you don't, you need to have at least one trusted person in your building that you can ask the most randomest question to. They'll answer it, give you some flack, but still answer it anyway, to hold you accountable, say, you should be looking at it. And my teachers, it's funny when I hear them say it now. Oh, you didn't check your weekly notes. So that she answered that last week, because you have to train them to know where to go for the information. And you have to train your students and your teachers like that way as well. So I kind of made a unofficial handbook so they didn't have to keep asking me for those questions. In the first couple of months, I was like, nobody's asking me anything, because they knew where to go find the answer. And that's where you need to be able to find a way to go get the answer. And if that's asking the same person over and over again until you could do it, do it. But it's important for you because your kids should not have to suffer for an adult mistake. If you had a field trip that they had paid for and they're planning on going, but you didn't submit your field trip request one more time, you got to tell the kids you can't go. They're going to be the ones that's going to suffer from it. So you need to make sure you put the kids in front of everything, because they're the ones who are going to be affected the most. It'd be your, I always say you don't want the kids to suffer for an adult mistake.
And this is what I've had to learn is, I'm now in my first year on a new job. Here I am on year 36, and I'm on a first year job, and I still am like that first year teacher at times. And sometimes it is. And, Craig said it in a comment that went by about, putting yourself in a vulnerable position. But I've learned that's kind of part of the game when you're new at a school, because you're going to miss details. And one of the things that and this might be a hot point for a lot of people, but I use AI to help me organize those emails. I will drop the whole conversation and say, tell me what I need to do. I'll build a project and tell it to drop all those emails, and then at the end of the week, tell me everything that I was supposed to do, that I need to do. And here's what it does. It makes it so that I can have that point. And the other thing I always like to suggest to people is take your prep period and schedule a time to do something for 10 minutes, whether it's read email or do this paperwork, or even if you don't have it, still schedule and make it a regular thing on your list of things to do. Because you said it earlier too, you talked about systems. I think systems is one of those things that I really wish we had more training on as teachers, because systems-based approach on everything usually solves a lot of problems that you don't even know exist, because the system takes care of you if you design it that way. But here's Jarrell, such a great point. Have you had access to this information, or you deep in curiosity? And I think, for my answer, it's for the information and deep in curiosity, it's both. I'm always curious to know how to do things better. I'm always curious on things that I haven't experienced, but I also have experience galore to teach me what I've done. And the other thing that's different, I've taught in, I think, 7 districts now. I didn't know how I got around so much. But every every district does something the same different. And I've learned that, I've come up to this state, and I'm on my 2nd district, and I can't tell you how different it is from the 1st district to the 2nd district. And it's still, in the end, what am I doing? Making the band sound good. That's it. But there's such a different system for things. Some things are easier, some things are harder, some things are more attentive, some things I can let go, some things but that's that power of, I think mentorship and having a coach is knowing what to do and how to do that. But how do you,
before you go? Oh, I want to touch on systems, because that's how I think. When I left my previous school was Arabian Mountain High School. I left there in January to start my position. So that's in the middle of the school year, right before they were getting ready to go to large group performance evaluation. But things were in place. They had the handbook. They knew who to go to for parent concerns, for teacher concerns, for administrative things. Like, I had my student leaders, because I didn't have an assistant band director during the day. So I trained my student leaders to help me do inventory so that they can help fill out filter request forms. There's a great book. I believe, I don't quote me on it, but it was like at the back of the book, it was like, these are all of the things that do not require a music ed degree, or all the things that your band director does. And it's habits of a successful band director. And I copied those 4 or 5 pages front and back and gave it to my student leaders. Like, these are all the things that I do. They were like, what? I was like, exactly. So on game day, when I say ask 3 before me, I mean that, because I'm trying to make sure you guys are getting fed, and you worried about what side our uniform is on for the day. That's not important right now. And so you have to put that in place. But my student leaders knew who to go to ask the question. They knew, my parents knew, oh, Miss Fogg, you didn't send out the weekly, the game announcements. I sent out RAM notes every Wednesday for our Friday game. And if it was a Thursday, I needed to send it out on Tuesday. When I sent it out late, they came to me because they were looking for that information. They knew the itinerary was going to be there. And once we changed systems, they knew it was going to come in an app. So we had to make sure everybody was in the app so we could communicate. We even had it to where the GPS would tell you, when will we get to the school? If it's 10:13 p.m., we need you to be there. But you have to set up those systems to be able to communicate to your parents when they are failing. How are you going to communicate to them so that they know this is a remediation plan? And I had parent-teacher conferences at the end of rehearsal. Hey, Mom, can I talk to you for a moment? Because Sam was not doing well in class today, and we need to get that together. So you have to find out what system works for you. I had to make up a separate email for my band so that I would not get it mixed up within the day-to-day communication. And they thought I was crazy at one moment, but when they started getting quicker reactions, they used that email address so that they knew that the communication would get to me. But have your band handbook. That is like your Bible for your program, and follow the rules you set in place. If you say this is going to happen, if you do A, it has to happen, because other than that, the kids are going to find a hole in your system, and they're going to make it big. Like, oh, she didn't catch me last time, so I'm going to do it again. You have to have a system in place. If you don't set up your system, to me, you're setting yourself up to fail.
It's funny you say that, because when I got to the school this year, there were 2 things that I created off the top. And I even told Craig, I told the kids, I am new. I am not the experience here. I put a handbook together, and I put a syllabus together, and I made it the expectation that, and it's funny because I put the expectation everyone's going to read it, because everybody reads the syllabus.
They sure do.
Totally word for word. But I put the handbook together, and it was just a bunch of things in place. But this is where I use systems improvement. That system can be completely wrong for us. But now what I have is this, I have something in place, and this is my goal for next year. I have 2 big goals for next year. So Craig, this might be announcements for you there. Is number one is if I have more time to be actually at my school during lunch, I need lunchtime with my students so we can go over every single little detail that we didn't get a chance to go over this year, because everything should be led by students, in my opinion. And that is different for some people, but that's my opinion and my culture. That's where I get to make it. And then the syllabus is the other thing too, is where we go through all the things, how do you know how a district works? How do you know? I didn't even know you were supposed to post grades because I forgot. I went to a new system and posting went out, and then I went back to the old system. Forgot to post my grade the first time. I made it by 2 minutes. I'm just saying I did my grades, but didn't know you had to post them. But those are those two things. And that systems, not only is our systems important to me. I mean, I'm such a nerd. I have Visio on my computer because I like to create the system of yes and no. I have one how to read the staff. I know I have one for low notes on a clarinet. There's not a system that I don't believe that you can't teach using binary outputs to achieve success, because I think that's what halftime, I'll go to the reading of music on the staff because I'm teaching 6th grade and 5th grade this year. And one of the ones is like, when a kid comes in just like totally just makes up a letter, I'm like, that's not even a letter on the alphabet, kids. My first question in my head was always, is that a line or a space? And they're like, G, F. I'm like, is it a line or a space? Can we, so I got them to figure out that system. Is it a line or a space? Yes or no? And then I got them to name the lines and spaces. But I actually built a systems map, handed it out to every single kid. Lo and behold, so many of those kids can read music better because I forced them into a system using musictheory.net to do, is it a line or a space? And yes. I can go and I learned, I didn't realize that you could create your own tests for the kids that they could go to. So that was on one of the podcasts. And I was like, holy cow, that was great.
Yes.
But that's not my point. My point is the system has improvement, and that's what we all need to do. Because you talk about supporting teachers, but then I have the system. Well, then, somebody says, well, why don't you think about showing up 10 minutes early if I have questions? Okay, let's add that to the system. Or, just some of those things. But here's Vincent Thomas. Thank you for this conversation. Yes, as educators, we do far more than teach notes on a page and steps and hallelujah. That is absolutely, yes. I think the last things we do is teach notes and rhythms, and that's what we all expect the kids to do. But if we learn that we do so much more and kind of spend some time concentrating it, holy cow, I think some good things should be happening. Anyway, I lose track. So we were on new teachers. Yes. We talked about SoundBoard. But I just in terms of culture, what are some things that you think, now we've talked new teachers. Maybe let's talk about experienced teachers. What do you think experienced teachers should have in place, or what are some of the things that you see out there that make it great or improvement? Let's pick it from any facet.
I think experienced teachers need to have a goal in front of them, because sometimes you can get complacent. And like, what are you striving towards? Like, do you want to get your kids to go to play for the Music for All regional? Do you want to get your band at Macy's or a Rose Bowl? Some type of a goal in front of you so that you can reach towards to get that. And they have to be open to change, because things are changing every day. I have teachers who've been teaching 25, 30 years, and everything is email. Everything is technology right now. So we had a new learning management system about 4 years ago, and I used it as a teacher. So then I use it now for my summer PD. So instead of you turning in a handout or artifact, you're going to turn it in electronically, because this is how your students should do. So I'm teaching them how to use the technology they should already be learning. And they don't like technology, okay? So they need to have one-on-one master classes for the teachers on how to use the technology of today. Scanning QR codes, that was the first thing at a PD. I was like, sign in using this QR code. They was like, what? You have it on your phone. I had to show them how to scan it with the computer.
Hit the camera.
Hit the camera on their phone. It was just, those are little things, and they just have to be open to being uncomfortable, because some of the things that the students are going through nowadays, it's way bigger than how it was. We have to deal with bullying on social media. We didn't have that, and I don't even want to get into that, but you just have to figure out ways to communicate with your kids. The notebooks, they're fine, but when you can have it digital, why not have it digital? And I learned that when we taught during the pandemic. We did everything online. So I said, when I came back, I'm not dealing with paper, because the paper just sat on my desk. I had piles and piles of paper, but I knew it was in each pile. But you have to evolve as an experienced teacher. because there are so many things that are ever changing. And your freshmen now are not the same as the freshmen were 10 years ago. They don't know how to communicate because everything is on social media nowadays. And they don't understand delayed gratification. They don't even understand practicing, because I worked at a school with high achievers. And so they were able to cram for a test or cheat for the test and still get an A or B. You can't cheat on your music scale test. Like either you know it or you don't. And so having to teach the kids about delayed gratification, I'm working you during July so you can get the endurance and stamina. So then when we get to the first game, the last week of August, you'll be able to play it without passing out. You'll be able to play all of these songs and have them by memory. Like we work hard, but it's not, it's worse than a microwave society. How you put stuff in the microwave and it's done. I posted on social media, I get 500 likes in 5 minutes. They don't get that in our classes. And there's so many other things that get their attention. So you have to figure out a way to compete against the engineering pathways, to compete against the healthcare pathways that the kids have. Even though the music that we have, we know all of the research about why music made kids smarter. That doesn't matter anymore, to be honest. And it's sad. I realized that in my role as an administrator, it doesn't matter. They're looking for the workforce development skills. So now I'm quoting, hey, at our All-State concert, they said that music majors were accepted into grad school over biology majors. What? Yes, that is real.
At a higher rate.
Exactly. At a higher rate. We use both sides of the brains at all time. Like those are the things that you have to sell to the parents about why to keep their kids there. And so some of our experienced teachers have to evolve that way, using social media to recruit. What's a TikTok dance? Get in the dance if the kids ask you to learn these 8 counts, because you're speaking their language there. And so reaching our kids is a little bit different. They have a lot of things that take their attention, and sitting in band is, I'm saying band, but sitting in that music class may not be the thing that they have to do right now. And it's not the most appealing thing to do, because they have to wait all the way to December to get an applause at a concert. But I got to learn these scales every day. I got to learn how to read. I got to learn how to sight read, so that would be the thing for the experienced teachers: technology, communication, and being open to being uncomfortable.
Communication, I think, that is the one that I've had to learn the most as I've gotten older. And I'm curious, because this is the nerd in me. Which learning management system are you using at your?
We're using Canvas.
Okay, Canvas. I will tell. This is how I say it. I was wondering if it was Canvas or not. This is what I've said to people for years, because I got it back in round 1. And I don't love Canvas. I'm in love with Canvas. We're having a relationship, and it's going well. And so what I've learned, and I started this out here, is there's so much you can do with coding to make Canvas work better. I'll even share a bunch of things with you, because that's the thing that I will do for my students. In Canvas, I always put all the music that we're playing. I built it like a YouTube playlist in there. Mm-hmm. I've got it so they can go in there. But it's that I think you are correct that because Jarrell said right there the comment about delayed gratification, which is a huge life skill, and that's something I'm going to focus on. Craig, put that in our notes for the week. It really is something I think we need to talk about, because there's the other thing that kids do that drives me insane that didn't used to exist, is they will ghost you. They'll ghost you on answers. They'll ghost you on doing homework. They'll ghost you on all these things. And I go, there's no way you're ghosting. You want to know how I know? I'll put something that you want inside of Parent Square. And then it's amazing how all of you respond instantly when I put it as something you want. And when it's something I need, it's like the little crickets go off. Because here's another thing. Just, I like sharing the things that you say and how it's changed my life. This year, we had a field trip to the state girls basketball playoffs, and we did the permission slip online for the first time. 100% of the people turned in the permission slip on time using Parent Square. And I had not done that at this school, and they had always used paper, and it was great. No kids were involved in the distributing. I can't even say the word distributing of the paper. They never had to collect a paper from the kids, and the parents loved it and got it back. It was so, because we had to go back and forth 4 days in a row from Portland to Tacoma. I say Portland, no one knows where Vancouver is apparently. But what I learned is that we tried something new in the system, and now I will not go backwards. I will not go. I don't even want to use paper, because it's the parents don't want paper. The kids don't want paper. I don't want paper. I don't even know what to do with the paper anymore. And then it's like, it was just one of those things where it accidentally created something that you said, like, the world is different.
Yes. And then that's time you have to run in between classes to go copy the paper. And you do all of that work to copy it and it's left on the ground at the end of rehearsal. I used to be so mad. So the kids are the middleman. You remove the kids out of the way and you'll be able to get the information to the parents a lot faster. Even some of our parent meetings are hybrid for the parents who can't come all the way because we were not a zone school. Kids came to our school from all over the district. So when we had Zoom parent meetings, people who weren't able to attend most of the time were able to attend. And we still had a good engagement with our parents as well. So we just have to figure out a way to have the technology that's changing embedded in what we do. We use another program where we would send all of the information out and you would see how many people looked at it. And I will give kids a pop quiz. What color shirt are we wearing? To see if they read it. So to make sure that they are paying attention to the information that's sent out. And I had one group for the parents so they could ask those questions. And then one group for the students. So I give them detailed information that the parents didn't necessarily need to know. Because if you keep sending too many things out, they're going to ignore you. They're not going to look at it because it's too much. So have your weekly schedule where they know you're going to send out an update on these days and they'll look forward to getting it. So you just have to set that system up for them for communication. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of those things in the classroom that I've learned this year from, again, this podcast has been great for, I don't know if everyone else does, but I get a ton of free PD on this thing. But I just posting everything every day on the screen of what I need, the kids love it more. And now that they've done something mean to me, they ask for it sometimes. Like, hey, where's the lesson plan? Because I started putting up sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I'll put up what we're doing for the week, especially when it's like festival season. Monday is this, Tuesday is that, when I'm actually that organized. And then what I learned is if you put it on the screen, like put chairs and stands away, turn in this and that, anything, it happens with a much higher success rate because it's those things that you don't realize that content that they see it becomes knowledge and they can't deny it. And that's what I think, that's why I say email is funny. Did you read my email? My answer, I'm like, I did not read the email because I haven't even got to it yet. You sent it. You wanted it 2 hours ago. I was teaching 4 hours ago, and I'll read it tonight when I get home. I make fun of it, but it's true. That's some of those things. So I like being told what's important, when it's important. I like multiple forms of communication. I like all of those things because in the end, what do I want to do? My job. And what do I also want to do? What I need to do. I'm not trying to get out of work. I'm trying to make sure I've done it. But as we say, ignorance is not an excuse.
Right. And you can, one of the things you can have as a system is if you have parents who can be volunteers that can communicate the information for you, they know that you're on the podium teaching. So they'll send you a quick text message. Hey, Ms. Fogg, a lot of people are asking about this. Can you answer me? And then they'll be the ones to send it out. Or if you have student leaders, or section leader for each section. Hey, make sure everybody knows that we're going to do the green shirt instead of the blue shirt, so that they can know, and make sure that you follow up with them. Have a channel of communication, because if you're the only person with all the information, it's set up to fail if you're not there. So you got to have other people that can follow along with you. I've never had an assistant band director during the day. I've always only been the only band director. And then I taught chorus and or orchestra at the same time. So I had to be able to communicate through my student leaders and my parents. And I had some fantastic band parents. And there were some that we had to grow to work our relationship out, but they ended up understanding my goals and vision for the program. And that's the things you have to set in place. Because if they can't repeat what your goal and vision is, it's not important. We've always seen one of the videos I share with my student leaders is the crazy dancing man in the concert. He's the only person that's dancing, but then he ended up having a follower, and then it ended up being a movement. All the people were dancing, and I saw that when one of my superintendents used it. I was like, I've been on that for about 10 years now, but it's a great video about leadership, and for the students to be able to understand it. If you're a leader, you're going on a walk and you don't have anybody following you, then you're just taking a walk. Okay, you're not a leader because nobody sees that what you're sharing with them is important.
And I just think in terms of like, as I've gotten older as a teacher, and again, I took that 11-year gap from being an administrator and going back to teacher. The one thing I can say is the kids are no different than they were 36 years ago. The only thing that's different is the stimulus that's around them. And I think that's what I think COVID did us a service. And one good thing is that taught us we all have to learn how to do things differently, because if you want to talk about systems, kids probably took everything that we took for granted and found a loophole in every single system. And then we teachers were spending the rest of our time to close the loopholes so that our kids would just, in the end, what do we want? Well, we want our groups to sound amazing, and we want them to learn. I really think that's the end result. But, as the scary part of this podcast, we've gone 54 minutes into the stream. Isn't it crazy? Because I still don't think we've talked about much of the in terms of like what we could be talking about. Because I love talking. I just love talking band. I'm just such a nerd. But and I'm thinking we talked about coaching. We talked about administration. We've talked about being in the classroom. And your soundboard strategies. But what do you think would be a nice final thought, or what's the last thing you would like to share with our listeners today before we end our lovely program?
One of the last things is to set up a system, because all of our programs are different, and what works for one may not work for you, because the dynamic of your building is different. The dynamics of your students is different, from a program that has everything to a program that is in need of some things. You have to figure out what works for you. I would like, in music, we borrow things and we steal things all the time, but you have to adapt it for your particular program and get you someone that is going to be able to listen to you, to be your sounding board. And that's why I developed SoundBoard strategies, to be the sounding board, because a lot of times teachers are they're the singleton, the only chorus teacher in the building, the only orchestra, or the only band director in the building. So get someone that you can bounce ideas off of, that can show you the ropes, that can help you eliminate some of the time that it would take you to get from point A to point B, so that you can be as successful as you can be for your students, because that is what the ultimate goal is, for us to move students. The picture that you see there is one of our schools that are performing at the American Bandmasters Association concert. And that is one of the things that we have. Schools in our district are able to do that, and schools that are just able to get a band on stage for performance evaluation. And no matter what it is for your program that you get, your level of success it differs. And don't compare yourself with the school up the road, because it's not going to be the same. No one knew where your kids were when you started. They don't understand all that it took to get you all to get there, and then what that one performance meant. So you set what success is for you and for your students, and then develop the strategies and the systems that you need to have in place to get there from point A to point B.
That is amazing. Well, here's one of the things that I've learned from this show is I want to express to everyone out there that the culture before content is really created because we all do our things the way we do for success. And I think, how you do things is amazing. How, I do things for me is amazing, but that's what I'm trying to get this podcast to be out there. The culture is, to me, what matters, because the success will follow when you have your beliefs and your things in place. But before you go today, I know that we have some things to share. We have email and we have some socials that we can share. So let's start with email, which for those of you listening, it is Monica at SoundBoardStrategies, all one word.com. And it's Monica with a C-M-O-N-I-C-A, and SoundBoard Strategies. I think that everyone can figure that out. One word.com. We have your socials out there. Ooh, you got a lot of socials. Look at that. Instagram at the Monica Fogg, which is 1 C and 2 G. So the Monica, MONICA FOGG. And then we have at DCSD Music, which is, I'm sure, DeKalb County School District Music. And then we have your new at SoundBoard Strategies, all one word. So just review at the Monica Fogg, at DCSD Music, at SoundBoard Strategies. And I think we have a Facebook, yes, which is at monica.fogg.7. And again, it's Monica with a C, Fogg with 2 G's and a .7. And I Facebook requested you today because I realized sometimes I'm like, I have so many people that are friends that we all just click yes. And like, hey, we're not friends. So I clicked you on your friend. So I know it works because I went and looked it up.
Awesome.
But thank you so much for coming today. It's so much incredible information. I really think your teachers in your district are lucky. And my final advice to my listeners out there, even if you don't have a district office person, support them, do anything they ask, do your best, because having one is the best thing you can ever imagine. And not having one would be detrimental. Support.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come today. And I am available if anybody wants to reach out and just to bounce some ideas off of. If you're a new teacher, I have a heart for new teachers. I want them to be in the field past 5 years and to be successful at what they set their goals out to do. So thank you again, Dave. This was fun. And if you want to ask me to come again, I'm available.
Oh, please. I still have this dream of meeting people and doing things. So I really want to start doing some MEAs and doing my culture before content at the state level, and doing some of the things thing. So I really believe that, if people come this summer, they're going to find out that culture is one of those things that's not me. It's you. I'm just the guy that's saying, I'm trying to be that voice in your head that says, do it your way, because that's what's going to be successful.
Most definitely.
Well, thanks again for coming.
Thank you. Have a great one.
You too. And thanks to all of you for spending a part of your day with us. And as we wrap up, I'd love you to share this episode on your social media and keep the conversation going. We keep getting more and more every week. This episode, along with others, are available at musicforall.org/podcast. And just as a reminder, I have additional resources for people to explore, which are hosted on my website, Duarte, all one word, .org. And you can always reach me directly at david.duarte@me.com. And you can follow the show, which I just have out there just to remind you when the show is, at Culture Before Content. There's the Facebook and there's the Instagram one, and it really just usually gives you the link to the show and talks about who we're meeting for this week. And a sincere thank you to Music for All for supporting this show and helping us continue these amazing and important conversations. And I'm David Duarte, and thanks for being a part of our culture today. And I look forward to seeing you next time.